Hey, it is Thursday again, 10 a.m. Keith Pitch here, your host of Real Estate Now with my co-host, Stacey Chevalier.
Hi, glad to be back. We have a great show today. We're going to be talking about getting back to building. But first, we want to talk about our viewership last week. We had a total of 509 views, so we will be donating that amount of money to our local food banks here in Washington.
It's awesome. So we appreciate everybody's involvement, watching our videos here, engaging with content. We've got a great show today. We're talking about getting back to building. And so, Stacey, how about you talk to our guests here about our two honored guests and who we have coming in here shortly. She's not in studio yet, but she'll be here shortly.
All right. So we have Kat Sims, Executive Director from the Master Builders Association, King County and Snohomish County. We also have Mike Surges, SVP, Loan Depot National Builder. My family calls Mike Uncle Mike. We've known him for 20 years. So welcome, Mike. And I'll let Mike introduce our next guest.
We also got Rick Fletcher. Rick's the builder lead for the Northwest for Loan Depot. And his interesting background is he comes from a builder background, builder sales and operational. So he has an interesting perspective on things that he adds to our lending team.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. It is another beautiful day. We were talking yesterday. Mike's got that beautiful background with the sunshine, and today we have our sunshine here. So I'm super excited that we shared it yesterday and brought it here to the Pacific Northwest. But while we're waiting for Kat, I just wanted to kind of do a circle round robin of what the national builder news is, and then we can boil it down to you, Rick. What are we seeing here on the local circuit with regard to our builders out there?
Well, I guess I'll start macro, huh?
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, macro, clearly, you know, after March, builder sales process completely went on its head a little bit with all the stay-at-home orders. The interesting thing is, you know, I think there's a lot of, you know, clearly the digital traffic has been rising. The virtual sales process is kind of developed fast. And it seems to me it's been going west to east. The people on the West Coast, California, had to adapt pretty fast because they wanted to stay at home faster. So they jumped to the, you know, virtual process much faster, and it's catching up going east now. But the sales, you know, the good news for builders is they started Q1, most of them pretty strong. So they were coming from a position of power a little bit. They weren't behind plan, they were ahead of plan. So that was a big break, I think, for the builders, because the impact in end of March, April, and into May has definitely slowed them down. But now clearly with the orders kind of shifting where we're trying to work safe and getting back to work, it'll start picking up. So, but the good news is, again, I think they learned some tricks on digital, virtual that will remain in place going forward.
Yeah, that's great. I think we'll talk more about that a little bit later in the show, just all the digital tools that are now available.
So Rick, what are you seeing in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, you know, the good news is we're back open for business. I think everybody is excited about that. And Governor Inslee has released a phased reopening. So right now, any project where the construction production was already underway before the COVID, you know, constraints and orders went into effect, they're back in their building, which is great news. The second phase is going to include new production, new starts, which is great because, you know, this area, this market has got a lot of pent-up demand with interest rates being where they're at. The affordability factor is pretty strong. And so I think that there's going to be a few things that are going to spur local activity up here. And the reopening, obviously, is the first step.
Really quick follow-up question on that, Rick. With things that were in flight, projects that were in flight, those have reopened. But something I got from a client the other day is like, hey, I want to start a new project. Can I still start the permitting process? Do we know if that's open for business, or are they just on hold for new permits as well?
I think Kat would be the best resource for that. However, my assumption would be going into phase two, if they're going to allow new production starts, the permitting process, and the approvals, plan check, those all have to be in place prior to putting a shovel in the ground. So my assumption is if it's not started yet, it's in the works.
Nice. Well,
great news.
That's awesome news, because one thing that was really helpful for me to get my mind around it, when we reopened, I was driving down the hill to the grocery store, and there's a project here next to my house, and I saw people actually swinging hammers and building again, and it really warmed my heart. I'm like, oh yay, we're getting some normalcy back in the builder world. So I'm super excited for that. So, well, we have just joining us here in the studio. I'm going to pivot and bring Kat Sims in. Kat, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Keith. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm doing great. So thank you so much for your time and coming to join us, because I am sure you and the association are super busy right now.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So we just wanted to jump into the questions, because I know that you have other engagements that you'll have to jump to as well. But the big news just coming down the pipe was Governor Inslee's phase 1 reopening. It reopens construction. And so what does that mean for our viewership, both the builders, the real estate agents, and our homeowners out there?
Well, it's terrific news, Keith. We share the governor's interest in making safety the biggest priority, the top priority. And I think that this construction one restart is going to allow us to get back to work safely, and not completely, but it's also going to mean that our builders are able to meet their commitments to homeowners and home buyers and folks who have remodeling contracts. All of that is really great news.
That's awesome. So you guys have some great resources on your website, and as a MBA member, I've been getting all your emails ever since the stay-at-home order went into place. But right now in the environment, what are our builder members out there? What are their challenges with restarting? It's not just let's go do business as usual. What does that look like for them right now?
Yeah, that's a really great point, Keith. It is not business as usual. The committee that worked with the governor to put together this plan that was formed by labor leaders, business leaders, construction industry leaders. They put together a 30-point requirement list of requirements for builders and remodelers to follow. It is not easy to comply with. It is burdensome, but builders know that it is the requirement. If you're going to get back to work in this phase 1 construction work, you must follow those requirements. So I can tell you a little bit about them if that would be helpful, those requirements.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so special social distancing requirements need to be maintained 6 feet between all workers on all sites at all times. That even includes folks making deliveries. So if the Comcast folks come out to install the cable, they need to be staying 6 feet away from everybody else on the site. They also need to wear PPE at all times on the site. So that personal protective equipment includes eye protection, a cloth face mask, and gloves. The type of gloves are appropriate for the job. So as you would guess, many folks in the construction industry regularly wear leather gloves on site, and those are acceptable. If you're using a power tool, we don't want to be using leather gloves because it becomes a safety hazard. So disposable gloves will do in that case, but there are no exceptions to facial covering, eye protection, and gloves on site for everyone at all times. The other requirements include things like hand washing stations. So this is easier to meet on some job sites than others, but there needs to be hand washing stations on all sites with soap and tepid water and an opportunity to dry your hands. As we all know, vigorous hand washing for 20 seconds is really essential as part of fighting the COVID virus. There needs to be robust signage on all of the sites. We have signage in both Spanish and English that you can download from our website on mbax.com. Those signs tell you things like protocol for proper hand washing, how COVID is transmitted, how you can protect yourself from COVID, and other health requirements from both King County and Snohomish County. There also needs to be a COVID-19 site supervisor designated for every construction site, no exceptions. The purpose of that COVID site supervisor is to help monitor health symptoms, to enforce the 30-point requirements, and to make sure that everybody's in compliance. The COVID site supervisor does not actually need to be physically present on this construction site if it's a single family residential construction site and there are fewer than 6 workers on the site. But if there are 7 or more workers on the site at any time, then the COVID site supervisor needs to be on site. So those are kind of the highlights, but there are many, many more requirements.
Kat, I have a follow-up question to the person on site. Is that an employee of the builder, most likely?
It is. It can be a current employee. Builders don't need to hire an additional person for this particular purpose. It could be the foreman on the site, or it could be another person who's designated. So generally, the general contractor will meet that requirement. We'll designate a site supervisor, but it might be that only one sub is on the site and they have more than 6 workers, in which case the general contractor may designate a member of that that subcontractor crew as the COVID site supervisor for the day.
Gotcha. And is the contractor, the GC, running the whole situation? If they have multiple subs coming in, are they the ultimate one responsible, or is everyone working together to meet all these mandates?
I think it's both, Keith. I think that the general contractor can't do it alone. The subs have to be in the soup with them. We're recommending actually that general contractors ask their subs to sign a subcontractor agreement that lays out what the requirements are on the site. That way there's no ambiguity between the general contractors and the subcontractors about what's required. I think that clear communication is really essential to keeping everybody safe, and it's in everybody's interest to make sure that people are safe. The general contractor is most at risk if the requirements are not complied with, because the penalties for non-compliance include fines and having their job sites shut down and red tagged. So it's really important that everybody work together to make sure that compliance is happening if folks want to continue to work, and of course to keep workers safe.
Absolutely.
Hi, Kat. I have a question. How's the restart going? Are we seeing development and production starts kind of across the board? Are they smaller jobs, or are the public starting back up? What are you seeing at the NBA?
Great question, Rick. I think that the start has been a little bit slower for the bigger builders. The bigger builders wanted to make sure that they had clear communication at every line of their supply chain. Smaller builders, as you might expect, are a little more nimble. They were able to communicate with their crews more readily. Their crews are smaller. They probably have a more select list of the subs that they use, and it's probably pretty routine. So we saw the smaller builders get back to work immediately. We saw the bigger production builders maybe take a couple of more days to make sure that they were fully training their crews and their subs. We're seeing them back to work now, which is really great news. And the public infrastructure projects, many of them were deemed essential under the governor's original order, and so they continued their work with the caveat that as of May 1st, they too need to comply with all of these new health safety requirements. So some of them needed to actually take a bit of a pause and make sure that they were getting the proper personal protective equipment, the proper hygiene and cleaning protocols in place, the proper signage in place, and training their crews. So I'm seeing them kind of back to work a little bit more as well. But I would say it's not business as usual by any means. Folks are really they're taking their time to make sure that they're complying with these things. And I think it's in everybody's best interest that we do, because until we demonstrate that we can meet the phase 1 requirements, we're not going to be able to move into phase 2 construction.
Right.
Hey, Kat, it's Mike. Hi. Hey, given there's a lot of detail in this, obviously, and I'm sure you're communicating out regularly, but you got to do it 7 times.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug like where people can access this online so they can readily get at the resource for all the requirements?
Absolutely. And I want to stress that this toolbox is available to members and non-members. The general public can go and access it at any time. If you go to mbaks.com, that's mbaks.com, you'll be able to access the toolkit. You see on the landing page a bright yellow box that says access the toolkit. Some folks have said, this is a really valuable toolkit. Why are you giving it away for free? If you scroll down just a little bit, there you go. You're at the tool. And then go back up a little bit and see the phase 1 toolbox kit along the banner up there. There you go. Click on that, and then you can view the whole toolkit. It has a frequently asked questions. It has plans. It has signage that you can print for free. Lots of great resources. And folks were saying, why are you giving this away for free? It's so valuable. And the truth of the matter is, we want everybody to get back to work safely, and making this resource available is just going to help people get back to work sooner and safely, so their crews can be safe and we can all continue to operate. So thanks for asking. Share that with anyone and everyone.
Yeah, and Kat, for fellow builder members, and you guys are having ongoing trainings on this via WebEx, or how are you guys getting that out to the members?
Yeah, so there have been a number of different training opportunities. We've been talking to all of our builder councils. This morning we had a Seattle Builders Council meeting, and we brought in some folks to walk through a few of the more frequently asked questions. We've also been making available the BIAW resources. They have a few training protocols, and there are some videos. So the BIAW is the State Association for Builders, BIAW.com, I believe. And there are a few recorded videos on there for trainings as well that anyone can access. You don't need to be a member to access.
And Kat, I'm definitely seeing similar stuff in different BIAs across the country. I think it's awesome, sharing it across states, because it's kind of, hit or miss on where things are moving. But once someone does all this work, it's good to share, because
absolutely. Why recreate the wheel?
Exactly. Yeah.
I would think.
Kat, I have another quick question, if I may. Are you seeing as it relates to the local municipalities and their building and planning departments, are you seeing a lot more processing for permits and plans, plans going through plan check in anticipation of phase 2 opening back up, or conversely, have a lot of plans been dormant because they were submitted prior to the COVID crisis?
So we're seeing a little bit of mixed results there, Rick. We have worked really hard. We actually have a tracking tool also on the MBA COVID site that tracks what local jurisdictions are doing with respect to submitting plans, if you can do it virtually or if you still need to go in and submit over the counter, and also how they're doing inspections. A number of jurisdictions have been very innovative and willing to do inspections by video, which is terrific. The city of Seattle and I have been talking about this. They have a number of inspectors who are in the high risk age classification. And so it was really important for them in particular to be able to do video inspections. They've done that. They've been turning most inspections around in a day. And they are still needing to do some on site. Similarly, Bellevue is asking all builders to certify before they schedule their inspection that they are in compliance with these 30-point plans, which is another reason the toolkit is so helpful. People can easily say, yes, I have done all of these things. I am actively complying. They want to see, the inspectors want to see that folks have on their PPE when they come to the site. They want to see that people are staying 6 foot apart from each other.
Right.
SDCI, the Seattle Department of Construction Inspection, told me they only needed to leave 3 different sites out of 1,600 inspections over the last 4 days. So I'd say that shows really good compliance by the industry. Really fantastic.
Yeah, great.
That's absolutely awesome, because I think you hit the nail on the head there, Kat. To get to phase 2, we need to show that we're proficient in phase 1, and to hear that kind of continuity going on out there, that's just great. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so proud of the industry. People have really stepped up to shine in safety, and it's clear that the construction industry values their workforce, wants to see people be healthy, and wants to do the right thing. I think providing them with the tools in the toolbox to facilitate their compliance has been terrific. You can also find in that toolbox a resource list of where you can go to buy PPE. It's not easy to find disinfecting wipes these days. It's not necessarily easy to find masks these days. And our team has done a lot of research and has links to suppliers directly to where you will find the disinfecting wipes on their site. So please share that. We want to make sure that people are able to get the PPE and supplies for sanitation that they need to stay operating.
Yeah, and we did have a clarifying question. This isn't just for new construction. This is for any construction going on out there, right?
Yes, it is. And in fact, yes. So every construction project needs to be following these guidelines. New construction actually is not, if a project had not received a permit prior to March 23rd, or had not been under contract prior to March 23rd, it cannot resume under phase 1 restart. So you have to either have a permit dated prior to March 23rd, or you need to have a contract, for instance, with a homeowner or with an excavator to come in and start your project. So otherwise, the project needs to wait until phase 2 restart. That's a great question.
Gotcha. Nice. And the overall community, the contractors, remodelers, were they all excited to get back, or are we still, is there still some fear on the builder member side about what their liability really is?
I think most builders really feel like they can comply with these requirements and keep their workforce safe. Of course, if you're in a vulnerable population, if you're in an older population, you have pre-existing conditions, you may feel that it's not safe for you to go back to work, and you have the right under the governor's order not to go back to work if you feel unsafe. So that's an important clarifying question, and you can find a link to that order also on our toolkit page. At the bottom of the page, we link to those different resources. So I think most folks are really excited to get back to work. Any worker can decide under the plan at any time that the workplace is not safe and leave. That is one of the requirements of the plan.
I mean, we're all here to keep everybody as safe as humanly possible. So it's great that we have these carve-outs and caveats. I know that we've had you on here for 15 minutes, and I really appreciate your time again, Kat. Is there anything else that we can help the MBA get out there to its members and homeowners across the Puget Sound here?
No, Keith, I'm so delighted to have had this opportunity to come talk with you today and you guys out helping us share our important messages. I really appreciate that. The only thing that I would say is safety absolutely must be top of mind and the deciding factor in all of our decision making. So please share our toolkit widely with folks. Let us know if you have questions. Our staff is here to help. We update our frequently asked questions item 1 in our toolkit really frequently. If we get that question 3 times, you can bet that it's on the FAQ list. But if you have other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Absolutely. We will definitely do that. And we'll be more than happy to send any of our members and homeowners to you guys as a resource as well. So, Kat,
Please do.
again, thank you so much for your time today.
Delighted.
Thanks, Kat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your afternoon. Enjoy that sunshine out there. If you can.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.
Wow. So that's a big order to digest. I was just looking through the FAQs that the Master Builders has on their website. It's 7 pages long. There's a lot of things that contractors are out there trying to make sure that they're keeping everybody safe in the process of building.
I think it's really interesting that because we were more shut down than other states, that we now have this tool belt to share. And as other states open and close, and as we just don't know how this is going to continue over the next few months, Washington might be the leader in how construction should be operating across the country. So we'll just see. Yep. But the MBA did a fantastic job of getting our workers out safely.
Yeah, and I think between Washington and California, where I live, I've seen these FAQs and these requirements coming out pretty clearly. Like the first week was kind of like in March, everyone was trying to figure out stuff. And then they pretty quickly, between the BIAs and MBA, they started getting information out on how to handle and how to do it safely. So I think that's been awesome. The other thing that caught my attention was the way she was so into sharing information. We're kind of like in parallel universe in lending, right? So a month and a half ago, when lending got into this, all the warehouse lenders were all nervous. Everything started tightening up. We all started sharing as lenders because we realized that we're all in it together and that it does no one good if someone messes up or someone does something. So just like in building, sharing information, it's kind of the same thing we're doing in lending because we realize we're all in it. So I think that's kind of cool.
So Mike and Rick, I got one final question because we're getting close to 30 minutes for you guys. This impact, it definitely hitting the pause button for a month and a half. It's going to have a little bit of a ripple effect here in the Pacific Northwest. We're on a daily basis struggling with affordability. What can we look at from new housing starts, and what kind of impact will this have in the next year or two as far as housing units coming to the market?
I don't know, Rick, you want to talk local?
Well, I think it's more than just a local issue. I think it's an industry issue. I think that builders, we're going to learn from this as an industry, both mortgage and home builders. I think the product design, the density, in the maps that builders get approved, what kind of privatized spaces there are, different types of functionality with the rooms and swing rooms. I think that, we're going to see, and it may not be a sea change, but it's going to be a very significant change, not only in how we sell and how we market both our mortgage products and the home building product, but also the design, what our programs look like, what their architecture looks like. So I think it's going to be the industry easing back into it. And there will be urgency. That being said, there'll be urgency in getting the homes completed where there's backlog and where there's customers, waiting to move in. I think that's where the initial urgency is going to be, and making business plan for 2020. How intact is each builder's business plan going to be based upon this reopening?
Can you share, I know you, Rick, and Mike both attend a weekly a call that seems to be kind of a leading the construction industry. Can you just share what that resource is? I don't know if the public can opt into that or not. And maybe just some of the facts from last week. We've kind of been tracking unemployment and forbearance and things like that from week over week. So just what that resource is and a little bit of information on it would be great.
Yeah, so Metro Studies Myers has a weekly, they call it a COVID call, which is kind of like an update. And they include stuff like starts, to your question, Keith.
Okay.
Clearly starts, permits, sales were off from first quarter, clearly. But the resource is Myers Metro Studies. It's usually Tim Sullivan and Allie Wolf, their economists that talk for the most part. And they cover typically national. They might pinpoint, like this week they talked about Houston a little more. But it's an awesome kind of just sharing 1 hour session, that heavy dose of econ, but pretty good. And I think we could share the link on our site if you want, Stacy. I don't think clearly it's for builders, for sure. That's who their audience is, but I think it's kind of grown into more than just builders.
Yeah, but for our MBA members watching, it might be a good resource for them if they weren't tuned into that yet.
Yeah, Rick, if you want, share the link with Stacy when you get a chance, and then she can put it on. Yeah,
I think it's good for the whole industry, and I put out a weekly update with some of the highlights, each week to builders and our partners and associates. And there's good national housing statistics. And I know we're short on time, but these are difficult times, and we are all going to have to reinvent ourselves. But one of the things I think is good, and I just wrote down some of the good things. If I can just go.
There we go, Rick. I like it.
Yeah.
I got like 3 of them, Rick. Yeah.
Here's some positive things that come out of this. First of all, Open Door and OfferPad are going to start, recommencing with iBuying. And I think that is going to stimulate both the general real estate market, in the markets they choose to reopen, as well as the builder activity, because it does help free that buying thread, that buying chain for builders. Another thing too is, builders have been very steadfast and very committed to holding base prices, to watching their incentives, to controlling the cancellations. And the cancellations that are occurring right now, many of them are due to, mortgage guidelines and financing and things like that. We're obviously, we have a leg up on that and expertise in that. I think that we're redefining, not just in Washington State, but we are redefining the safety standards for, projects, for builder projects across the country. They'll never be the same. And while there will be a cost associated, the long-term investment, the ROI, is going to be solid, because it is about safety first. Online traffic for builders are reported, and this is a poll of about 300 builders across the country, that their online traffic is up 13% year on year, clearly because that's the main venue for consumers to look at new construction. But I think it's great, and it's compelling, really good, solid, high-tech, informative websites for builders. So I think that there's a lot of things that are happening that are helping builders to get better, to get better at what we do, to be safer, to connect with our prospects. It's helping, mortgage companies, bank and non-bank, like Loan Depot, to become better and understand virtual processes and digital approvals and all the things that will help us move forward.
Yeah, and the thing I'll add on it is the other positive is, again, affordable, attainable, whatever word you want to use, is a challenge in a lot of coastal markets. But the rates being this low and probably staying this low for the foreseeable future definitely helps on that front, because we all know there's a pent-up demand out there. There's no doubt there's demand, and there's a shortage of supply. So those are kind of facts, and rates staying low is a positive, I think, to help us come out, just because it's more attainable. So
yeah, couldn't agree with you more there.
And I guess the last other positive I'll say is a lot of the digital options that we've been looking for over the years with the agencies like Fannie, Freddie, FHA, they're all like getting fast started now, like remote online notaries. We talked about 2 years and couldn't get it approved with anyone. within a month, Fannie Mae said, "Yep, we'll do it," and everyone's using it now. So I think that's going to be another like positive option for the consumer that wants to kind of execute that way. I think it's going to be in our system set up to go digital app, digital approval, digital title, digital e-close. So it's all set up if you want it. And again, we can go the other way and sit at a table and do it, but you have options. And I think this definitely expedited that and kind of strengthened it almost. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I would just want to end with that quickly. My background with Mike is with Builder. That's where I started. So I was in that world for 15 years. We have a big presence here in the Puget Sound, mainly under joint ventures. So you don't necessarily see the Loan Depot name, but we have, as you can see from the panel, a great amount of resources for builders. So if you do have any questions at all, please reach out, and we're happy to be a resource for you.
Yeah,
thanks, Daisy. Yep. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you guys, and enjoy your afternoons. And I want to, Rick, thank you for your time. Mike, thank you for your time. It was awesome to have Kat here today. And for those of you, tune in next Thursday, and we'll see you at 10 o'clock. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.